All right, hey everybody, it's Torrie. Some of you might know me from 90 Dames. I am here in a different capacity. I am rolling with Girl Geese this time out, and we are talking all things heavyweight. Um, the ladies at Girls and Geese came to me and asked me to curate a chat of women heavyweights so we could just discuss all the fun things that involves. And let's start with Hillary.
I'm Hillary VanOrnum. I own and am the head coach at Unicorn Jiu-Jitsu in Portland, Oregon. I've been a black belt for about 8.5 years now. I try to compete regularly, but continue to get injured the past, I don't know, whole time at black belt.
Well, I'm Shannon Menees. I'm a purple belt. I compete under Diego Bispo from Virginia Beach, Virginia, but I'm currently in Jacksonville, North Carolina, training with a Just BJJ. So an interesting little combination there. I've been a purple belt for almost 2 years and been training jiu-jitsu for about 8 at this point.
Delana, Maule, fresh blue belt. I've had the thing for like 2 months or something like that. Been consistently training jiu-jitsu for, I believe it's 3 years now. I train out of 302 BJJ in Wilmington, Delaware.
And let me do my quick spiel. Like I said, my name is Torrie O'Neill. Like I said, I'm the founder of the Mighty Dames. This is my 10th year doing jujitsu, which is actually creepy to think about. I am purple belt training out of a petty submission fighting, Ala, the Birdhouse. Yeah, it's still, is it still weird for you to call yourself a blue belt? Because it's still weird for me to call myself a purple belt. It's been months now. I mean, a brown belt. See, still doing it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble adjusting my mindset to and the new set of rules and how the guys are treating me now. So
my biggest thing is when I look up competitions, I still go to purple belt to see who's in the division before I realize like it's not me anymore. Let me look at the bleak that is brown belt and there's nobody. But let's start with this. So within jiu-jitsu, I think what typically is considered a heavyweight, like a heavyweight, is somewhere around that 165-ish range, give or take. Under that, you might still get tagged as like a medium heavy, but around that 160 is about what they consider a heavyweight. I find that ridiculous. I think most women think it is a little crazy. So I just want to ask all of you, like when you got into the sport and you realized that weight classes were a thing, did it surprise you what they considered you? Like did it surprise you what the weight classes were?
Well, when I first started, there was no super heavy division. That came around brown belt, I think, for me. And I did the math. I had to do the math on how long I've been training. I think it's about 17 years now. But yeah, it was just heavyweight. There was no super heavy. So it was even more lumped together. So I mean, yeah, and I didn't weigh myself for a long time and didn't know how much I weighed. So it was odd being like, how much do you weigh? Like, I don't know, like over 200, like what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. When I started, I was like at the top of heavyweight and like cutting weight to try and make weight, like during my first competitions and stuff. And it was just insane to me that, and like even still with the super heavy division, like there's training partners up in Virginia is like 177, and I'm like, we should not be in the same weight class at all.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't know if surprise is the word. I wasn't surprised. I already knew I was a bigger person. I guess I was more unprepared for the lack of people in the weight class, especially where I live. I think that was more of the surprise, but over time I was like, it's not really surprising. People don't like to move. So I don't even know how to convince people to try anymore because there's nothing glamorous about this.
Shannon, you mentioned something that I know I've spoken to Hillary about, and that's cutting weight. What has been any of your experience with cutting weight? We'll start with you, Shannon. Especially when you're one of those people who I think all of us super heavyweights?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm moving down, and that's
a
complication. I'm about 205 right now. Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. So I want to. What is that calculation? Because like I'm deeply into super heavyweight. There is no potential for cutting. If you're close, what is your experience with cutting weight, and what comes to mind when you're considering that cut?
Okay, so how I treat my students is I don't want you cutting weight for anything local. Master Worlds, and Pans, cool. Other than that, I don't want you cutting. And I just had a student compete at Worlds, and she went a purple belt, and she went in heavy, but she weighed in on the scale of Worlds at 170. And I was like, man, for that, but she was going through some personal stuff, and just it was kind of a last minute deal to do Worlds. So I was like, let's just go where you are. Mm-hmm. The only weight class I'm okay cutting for is the super heavy for women or ultra for men. If you're, say I have a student that's 185 female, yeah, can we lose 10 pounds for one of those big tournaments? Other than a big tournament, I don't think it's worthwhile. And there's a local tournament here in Portland that has added an ultra heavyweight division for the women.
All right.
But this is where now I have this weird position, because I was like, I don't think I'll ever make 175. I'd have to lose 35 more pounds. And I'm wearing like a size 10 in some pants, which is mind blowing to me right now. But if they added a 195,
yeah,
I would do it now. But then the field gets thinner and thinner. Back when we had just heavyweight, I did Worlds at blue belt in like 2011, I think. And there were 13 girls at heavyweight, but that was 163 and up.
Okay.
This, like, the divisions are getting bigger, but they're still tiny at all the belt levels. So I think adding more weight classes is bad. But now that I'm in that, like, at 195, like, I could make that. It's hard to make that decision.
Yeah.
But I think if you're close, within 10 pounds or less of the weight class, maybe try to cut of the ultra heavy or super heavy. Other than that, just go where you are. Like, I did MMA for a long time too, and like it works for MMA kind of, but even though you're not your best when you're cutting weight physically. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I second that. I when I first started jiu-jitsu, I was like right on the brink of super heavyweight, and I cut for like my first ever tournament just to see if I could. And then for my first IBJJF tournament, I mean, this was back in like 2019. It was my first tournament at Blue. I cut it down to medium heavy. Yeah, it was terrible.
I'm sorry. Seeing you in person, I was surprised.
Yeah, I look ill. It was not good. But just kind of like to Hillary's point, I was not at my best. Like, I had trained really hard, and then I went to go do like one of my movements that was like one of the things I knew I was really good at, and it just complete fail. And I gassed really quickly. And since then, like, I thought about cutting last year for Pans down to heavy, and then I got injured, and then I went, and I was like, I felt great. I didn't cut weight. It was one of my first tournaments that I didn't like try to
beat me.
Look,
easily.
But I'm cool. I'm happy in heavyweight. I know I lift heavier. I don't have to worry about like maintaining or anything, or super heavy. Sorry. I feel better all around. Like, I don't have to feel like I got to hold back from like putting on muscle mass, because it's, you're gonna have to cut if I try and cut. It's just not it for me.
Okay.
I have a new interesting perspective too. So I've lost about 75 pounds in the past like 2 years using weight loss medication, which I'm super open about, because I think like it's showed me that it wasn't my lack of willpower for inability to lose weight. It was my body didn't work right. But I'm noticing now I'm easier to sweep, and I'm finding that I think maybe not relied on my weight more, but I'm having to find different jujitsu now, especially passing. And Rhonda Andrews is one of my best friends, was just up here like 2 weeks ago, and she was like, you just have to figure out how to do it differently now. It wasn't you were relying on your weight, your jujitsu is just different. But it's interesting. My purple belt student is like sweeping me some, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, part of it is like you said, you've been in the game for such a long time doing a certain way of jiu-jitsu that dropped all this weight. And so if you're doing a rapid readjustment, it's not like it was progressive.
And all the injuries, because I have neck, back, lower back, and both knees now are fucked. So that's the other thing, is like, how do I figure out how to do jiu-jitsu with this new body that's broken, but also smaller and can move better? So I don't know. I'm like half guard.
Any things with anything with you weight cutting? Any thoughts about it? Because you're the newest to the sport.
Yeah, I haven't had to deal with that yet, but what you just said was part of uh, my concern too. Because after I got like started committing to it, I think I dropped like 35 pounds, and it was great. I have knees again, that's nice, but I still have like probably 50 pounds to go, like health wise, to get my like blood pressure and everything under control. But I'm so used to the way I fight right now, and I know 50 pounds from now, I'm just gonna be like, I gotta do this, learn again.
Yeah. It's like I said, me and Shannon, I met her at Pans last year, and that was, then that was like the first tournament I did since the pandemic. And I came in there with it'll be fine. Let's just do this. But I think I was about 50 pounds up from where I normally compete. And I want to say like the first we in finals on day, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first match alone, I was like, oh, I'm done. This is not going well at all. And then when we competed, I want to say you went for a double leg for me, and no one does that to me. And realizing that I could not move my weight properly, I was like, ooh, we gotta fix this. And I told you at Worlds, like, just so you know, you kick me into high gear.
Yeah.
And even within super heavyweight, I dropped from Pans last year to Nogi World. I dropped about 50 pounds, about 55 pounds. And I didn't consider it cutting weight. I considered it just like getting my crap together, because I'm not gonna lie, I was here wilding. I was here. There was not a meal that I did not to eat. There was not a carb or sugar. It was not my best friend. And I just wasn't, I hadn't gotten back into like the training consistently mentality. But I think once I did that and just even went super crazy with my diet, just cleaned it up some, I was shocked how quickly like weight fell off, and I got back to my little, I buoyed back to my listening weight. But I feel like there is like a little bit of a thought process for people who are on heavy weights of just drop some more weight and just cut the weight and do that. And I was like, well, if it was that easy, I would have lost weight for health reasons years ago. If I didn't lose it for that, I'm not losing it for this jujitsu thing that I pay to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've dropped about 35 pounds since like August of last year. And I mean, my game, I've been trying to adjust it, right? It's just not the same as what it was in the past. And it's weird, like trying to change how like you play. So it's tough, especially, and I'm still like deeply into super heavy, even with that loss. So
yeah, I have movement problems because I need to make more of an effort to move what weight I do have. But I know losing it will help solve a lot of that problem. But I'm still getting yelled at for being too like stagnant.
Yep.
Not lifting.
I will always say like I'm an unapologetic like point collector and like staller to some degree. Like I don't care. Like my whole thing was like, if I'm stopped, move me. If you don't like it, move me. That's been my whole game. So as long as I'm making it work and I'm moved from like a net positive position, like if you can't get out of it, that's my fault. So it's a little different now. I switched to primarily no-gi. But oh baby, when I had beautiful gi, I love to just sit and hold them for a little bit. So what are a couple of I think we have this idea that people like to consider like all things we go through with jiu-jitsu as like a positive. I don't believe that's true all the time. What are some like the benefits, but all like the challenges you face being like a larger woman within the jiu-jitsu space?
Finding a partner in class. The only people that are in my weight class, in my class, are these dudes that are like 6'4", 300 pounds. And I'm like, I'm with you, buddy. And that's always, and I love them. I have two of my favorite, but they're so used to me now that it's annoying. And their arms are so long that if I reach out my arm, I can't touch them, but they can grab me and anything. There's nobody really my size at all, like my height and weight.
Mhm.
I'm always going with these giant dudes, and I know that can help later. Like if I can move them, then I probably will be able to move whoever during competition. But like
It's different.
training's weird here, especially because we have less people than we did before. Just finding a partner just for regular training is something.
Gotcha. Agreed.
Yeah,
Well,
I second.
for me, I was always the only woman. And then it was like, yeah, being a bigger woman was hard. And then as I progressed through the belts, I had one coach that would always be like, get in groups, similar size, similar belt. And I would always be like, the only female black belt.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with the lightweight guys because I felt like that was the best thing. And then I think I've told this story before, but I had an old teammate that would be like, Hillary, he said, get in groups similar size and similar belt. You're not the same size as them. A female did that to me. And I was just like, obviously it bothered me because I still remember it and talk about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's always been hard for me, just finding, people. And now like at my gym, I think there's 6 black belts. Now I'm like counting 3 that I've promoted, which is really weird. But I have like ladies now that are all the belt levels that are all sizes, and it's awesome to have. I mean, Torrie's been there. She knows, like, I've got
It's
super
dope.
heavy to, I think that my smallest ladies, well, Denise is like, she's like featherweight, but the
We
rest
love
are
her
like,
anyway.
Hmm?
Saying we love her anyway.
oh yes, we love her anyway. She fights like a super heavy. She's like 61 years old and purple belt that tries to murder everybody.
Shannon, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Mostly, it's like finding training partners, right? Especially like competition training. I feel like you're always being divided, and a lot of the competitive females tend to be like medium or lower like weights.
Mhm.
So when we were comp training for Master Worlds last year, they'd like split us into groups, and they'd be like 160, or like the girls over here and the guys and Shannon over here.
Yeah.
Because I'm the biggest by far in my gym. I'd say that. And then outside of training, finding gis that fit appropriately. I can't tell you how much money I've spent on gis that I'd have to like resell because they just didn't work. I think that's the most frustrating part, is like being a larger woman is just finding the gis that fit you properly. Especially I've got like really broad shoulders, so like women cuts are out. No way that they'll work.
Well, women's cuts tend to end at like 150, like
Yeah.
maybe middle heavy, but yeah, I think I bought a couple different women's cuts gis over the years, and I say just find a brand that fits you and stick with that brand.
And just
That's what
buy up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I played the roulette game with a couple of gis, and then I finally landed on the one that I know fits, and I'm never changing. That's it.
Yeah.
No, I did the same thing. Like, I think that's part of the reason why it's so easy for me to give up doing gi. Besides, moving to a school that's primarily just no gi, because I still make them suffer and throw a gi on every now and then. But I've literally had the same like 4 pairs of gi pants. Probably since like the end blue belt, because I know they fit and I just put them in rotation. And so that's the one good thing about pandemic is like it belonged the life of a gi for a little bit. But even now, I go out and do seminars, I go to camps or whatever, I have the same 3 gis because I know they fit. I don't have to worry about anything. I won't say when I lost a lot of weight, I was very scared because I was like, I'm wearing these regardless. I'm not buying another gi. So if these pants are a little bit baggy, it will be fine, because even I know if I try to go down a size, it was going to fit completely different. It was either going to be too short or too tight on the hips. Finding gis was like it was super stressful.
Yeah, I had to have like Show-Your-Roll would sometimes send me different pants for certain gis because I really wanted to wear this one gi for it, like to compete in, and I'd be like, the pants don't fit, and they'd be like, here, we found some pants that are a different size. But now I'm having the weird my old gis are too big and I need an A2 now, which is mind blowing to me. Like
Wild.
that was my goal when I started my weight loss, was like, I just want to fit in the gis I own. And now they're like falling off when I put them on, like in the pants, which is very weird.
It's a be careful what you wish for situation when you realize everything is outgrown now. Like you no longer can fit anything, but you have years like gis just sitting there. That's like mine are all up there. I'm like, all are decoration now.
I've got bins of show-year-old gis that don't fit right now.
Yeah, I got really comfortable and like I established like the brand and the size that I love and stuff. And I was in an A3 short, and then I lost that like 45 pounds, and now I'm like, well, now I have to buy all new gis. So that's great. I know someone who's still like an A3 long with Hyperfly, so we trade. He'll buy me one brand new, and I'll give him 2 old gis, and it works out. Yeah.
Same system works. That works.
This whole topic right here is what my Instagram account is made out of. It's just trying to help solve this problem. And actually, finally, like companies started reaching out to me. Like,
yes,
Guy Dama was like, "Can you try on these 4Xs? Like all those things that Torrie, you've seen my reels.
Yeah.
Those are all.
If you haven't seen her reels, check them out. They are entertaining.
Those are all 4X prototypes. They collected a bunch of numbers from various people, and I'm one of the people that they chose to continuously try on the 4Xs to make sure that they work before they sell them all. And I'm like, please help us.
Yes. I will say, as like someone who does own a jiu-jitsu brand, when I hear stuff like that, it makes me so happy, because like size diversity is something that's always been present in the sport, but it's just not commented on. It's kind of like a shut up and fit this 2X, you'll be fine. So now that we're here, there are people who do, 3X, 4X. We go up to, Dames goes up to 5X, which I would like. I'm not going to lie. Whenever I sell out of like a 5X, I'm like, all right, there, we got it. So I know it's a new person, because most of the people, when they start at 5X, they're going to drop down to a 4 or 3 relatively soon. So whenever I sell a 5X, like, we got a new, someone else is starting. Here we go.
I send some people your way.
Hey, look, the Dames is. I think I say this in every interview. Like, I've tried to quit this a lot. Y'all won't let me. Which is great. It goes into the whole idea that within this sport, I think most of you compete pretty regularly. I feel like everyone can find their niche within the sport, whether it's being a competitor, whether it's being a community builder. And that's what I like to think of what I do as community building. And a lot of it has come around the Dames brand. And honestly, like we were talking about things not fitting well, one of the only reasons it started because I couldn't find shorts to fit me for the life of me. Like, I got some size, and there was nothing that was coming close. And I don't like sats, but because how they would fit on my hips and butt, they'd always slide down a little bit. So when I finally found someone who's willing to make me shorts to my specs, I was like, all right, well, I'm a 5X. I dare someone to beat this, because I don't think you exist. But yeah, that's how we went from building sizes. So most of the time we talked about the challenges. What are some of the good things about being a heavyweight? Oh God.
I think the community. I mean, it's seen like you of other like people that I like compete with regularly. Like, I just think it's really cool. Like we share the same challenges, and then also like, we go out there, and I mean, you're rolling with different people, like of different body types, and at least in the super heavy division, right? Because there's no cap. So I just think it's interesting. It keeps you on your toes, I think, and it's like I can't rely on like one game or like one game plan, because I could be going against someone who is like the same size as me in strength level versus someone who is like much taller and like just fights completely differently. So I think that's one of the benefits where I feel like my jiu-jitsu is better rounded than people who stick to like their rooster weight and you all fight the same, and that's kind of it. Like, everyone has their variations, but it's all, I don't know, there's just like a little people versus bigger people game, I feel.
Okay.
I like when we're competing and we go out to eat and I'm with like my husband who's making weight and I don't have to. And I'll be like, I'll get a burger and I'll have a beer too. And he's just like, I'll have a salad, dressing on the side, hold the salt. And I've always found that funny because like servers will look at like this is backwards, but
Yeah. That.
Being able to eat is definitely nice. Like no one's looking at me to cut anything. All the other girls are like worried about it. I'm like, I'll see y'all later. I'm going to Chipotle.
No, I will always remember seeing like going at a competition had like 4 guys, the scale was off by like a pound. So everyone's stressing out or running in trash bags outside. And I didn't know what was going on because it's been heavyweight. I come rolling in with like a hot dog in one hand and then nachos in the other. What's going on,
on
guys?
The scale, like
they're like, we're gonna cut weight. I was like, oh, that's so terrible. I'm gonna go weigh in real quick. And IBJJF, it's a little easy. Like they have a better system, but when you go to smaller ones, they sometimes have you like put your gear on. Sometimes they don't. And like I remember walking on with like not thinking, they have a backpack and my shoes on. They're like, well, you have to drop it. I was like, sir, respectfully, nothing is going to change. But I was like, all right, sure. Still with my hop in my hand, I was looking down like, yeah, that's about right. And then just walking off and watching everyone it was like there was at least like 13, 14 people just outside running, trying to drop that extra pound. I'm like, man, that just looks terrible. And also I'm like, you all blue belts. Is it that deep?
When we went to Euros in January of this year, one of my teammates that we traveled with was cutting weight. And I just like, I could not imagine traveling and like being on an airplane and then having to cut weight when you're in Paris. Like, I just, bless her soul. That's all I could say. I mean, she did it. She made weight, but I was like suffering for her by proxy. It was tough.
Yeah, no, I show sympathy for anyone who's cutting weight. I'm actually quite terrible. Because you could have just went up a division. Like, no, you could have. You chose not to. Like, I'm like a weight bully. I was like, you should just go up. Like, do you not trust your jujitsu? Is because that's what I'm hearing. Is you don't trust your jujitsu 10 extra pounds. Just you roll with me, and that's fine. But okay, just saying. But yeah, I do. I also like echo Shannon. Like I like that within the super heavyweight, there is a vast difference in size. You can get someone like me, like 6'1", 300 pounds, and you get someone else who is like just decided they didn't want to cut 5 pounds to make heavyweight, but they might be let's be honest, they are more mobile, and like one thing I the higher up I've gotten, I've realized like they're all just strong in different ways, but they're still strong as crap. So it's pretty super heavyweight is a very weird place to reside sometimes.
I do enjoy that I'm not easy to lift. That's nice most of the time. I've never been a enjoy being picked up kind of person in general. And then jujitsu happened. I'm like, oh, thank God, because I don't like people lifting me off the ground. I hate that. They're like, I don't do that Disney pick me up and spin me around stuff. Please don't.
I love it. When someone actually like launches me or picks me up, I'm giggling. I'm smiling. I'm like, ooh. Like I have whole competitions that you can see like on Flowgraph where someone throws me and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get that. That's
freeze frame her face and she's like,
bravo. You got me.
I got butterfly sweep the other day, and I just think those are so much fun because it reminds me of being like a little kid. It's just, I don't know, it's like you feel weightless for a second, and then it hurts, but that's a different size.
I get personally offended when I'm stepped. Takedowns are one thing, but like someone challenges, like, because I have a very solid base. Even if I can like dip up a little bit, I look down like, who do you think you are?
You feel disrespectful sometimes.
Yes, how dare you? Like if someone scissor sweeps me or attempts to scissor sweep me, there is no rage that I feel like that other than like when someone tries to leg lock me. Like, are you serious right now? That's what we're doing on this Chipper Thursday.
The audacity.
the audacity is quite right. So like I said, each one of you compete. I want to start with you, Dean. I'm going to go up through the belt. What has been your experience in competitions from your bracket size to really that's be the main thing, like your bracket size and like how you've felt competing as like a super heavyweight.
Bracket size has always been extremely small. I've only ever had like 1 to 2 in everything I've had to do. And the one time where it was three of us on there, I was excited, but also like, damn, I gotta be here all day then. Um, the one of the girls just disappeared, and then it was like, well, okay, whatever. I've always had to do like because I do good fight more than
Mhm.
anything else. They always just match up better with my life schedule for some reason. I'm definitely a fan of like the sub onlys
Mhm.
more, I think. But like every time I show up, there will be 3 or 4, and then 2 people won't show up every time. So I haven't had to fight like a whole lot. It's a lot of like overtime rematches with the
Mhm.
same person for me. And I was supposed to compete in March, but work was conflicting with it. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh, well, I could still figure this day. But then I kept checking the brackets to see if anyone signed up, and no one signed up. But I felt bad. I was like, is no one signing up because they're also doing what I'm doing, where they're looking to see
Mhm.
if someone did? Or is
Mhm.
there actually just no one available in this bracket? Because one of the competitions, my only other option after the one girl disappeared for Gi. Oh, and Gi is completely out of the question, apparently. Even when girls do show up, no one signs up for Gi. And I like Gi. It is very disappointing. Everyone wants to do no Gi, and I'm like, fine. And we got down to a point where now the only person left is my own teammate. And she's looking at me, and I have at least 40 pounds on her, and they're like, do you guys want to go against each other? And I didn't even get an answer. She was like, no. I
Like hard
was like,
pass.
yeah. She was like, this is my teammate. We ain't doing it. And I'm like, oh, well, I was going to say yes. I was just so we could do something. All right, never
Yeah.
mind. So it's been very, like, low. I have to travel more. That was also the goal for the summer, barring money or whatever, to travel more so I could meet more because I did do like little things like scrimmages.
Mhm.
We've been to 2. I got to at least meet 1 or 2 other people closer to my weight, and we're always like delighted to see each other because we always expect no one's gonna show up. So when we see each other, we're like, "Oh my god, thank you so much for coming!" And then
Yeah.
get to do something. So it's small pool. I will have to travel to find a bigger pool. Like when I came to Dames Camp to see you, that
Mhm.
was like the best trip in the world to me.
Yay.
And I came home and I went to boyfriend. I was like, "Look, they're all like me." And then we went out for food. It was great.
Yeah. We ate a lot of
I,
food in that.
I found my people because it's lonely up here.
It is. It is. Yeah, I think travel is definitely like a necessity for being super heavyweight. Like you can't stay local if you want to compete on any kind of consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Shannon.
Yeah, I mean, just mirroring that, right? I mean, like exactly what you said. I tend to be compete more like IBJJF, because I know like it's a bigger bracket, but even still, I think at super heavy, the biggest bracket I ever had was at a blue belt at Master Worlds, and there was like 7 of us,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty it's like 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. But I do like there are a couple people where I'll do the same thing, like check and see who signed up for some of them, and sometimes I'll just message, be like, "Hey, why aren't you signed up for this? Please, I want to fight someone." So there's a
It'd be
couple.
so kind to just
Yeah,
sign
if
up,
you
please.
help you. But yeah, it's just travel, right? So, and that's the biggest thing. But again, I think it kind of helps build the community because you're gonna follow each other, and you kind of
Mhm.
have this expectation in each other at big
Mhm.
tournaments.
Well, and for me, I've always gone down in age. When I was, I think, my second year of black belt, I did masters at Pan Am's, and there was only masters 1. There wasn't all the other masters divisions of that year. That was like 2017. Um, so when they started adding the more age divisions, I only do the big tournaments because I've well, owning a school, but also finding people. I never got to compete locally in Portland coming up. I've done one IBJJF Portland Open, but that was a black belt, and I did adult, even in my
Ooh.
40s. I was competing in adult into my 40s. So that was one way I had to go about it. I've only competed, I'm Masters 4 now, and I only competed at Masters 4 twice in 2 years. But I guess I've only competed twice in 2 years. So scrap that. But the other problem or I don't know if it's a problem, I've become like best friends with most of my best friends are people I've competed against.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets hard to go out there and compete against women that you've like grown really close to. And last week before, at the Masters tournament at Worlds, my student was doing Worlds. So I was like, well, I should do this. I'm relatively healthy. And then
relatively,
for me, healthy. So I looked, and one of my really good friends, Megan Tidwell, was signed up. And I was like, Megan, do you want to go against each other, or should I drop down in age? And she was like, Hillary, there's only so many of us, Masters 4 or Masters, black belt, super heavies. We'll still be friends after we compete. I'm going to just have a hard time not giggling while we're competing. We did not giggle. She tried to kill me. She probably competed the best she's ever competed before, and I was super proud of her. But and afterwards we hung out all day, and but that's hard. It's hard for me to compete against my good friends. I had a match against Marisha, or Grumpy BJJ girl. We went against each other at Masters Worlds in 2020. And I was like, I'm not in good enough shape. Like, I don't want to go against you today. You can just win. And she was like, can we do a warm-up match? And I was like, sure. So we rolled. And if you see this video, it's really, I'm giggling. We almost got double DQ'd. Apparently you can't do that. But like, she went for a knee bar because like it's supposed to be a real fight. And the ref could tell that we were not really fighting. And my husband's like on the sidelines yelling at me, quit laughing, fight. She went for a knee bar, and I was like, no knee bars. And she was like, okay. And then she took my back, and I was like, do you want me to tap? And she was like, no, keep going, escape. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
I should have just said, oh, I'm injured. She wins. But so if you ever see that match of me and Marisha, like it's a fake match.
I will now. I will look it up now.
You can probably hear Brian, stop laughing. Because I was just like, I'm rolling with one of my best friends.
Yeah, I think that let's say the biggest divisions I had were at blue belt, which kind of makes sense. Is people are still getting there, still settling into their weight. By the time it gets up to like the higher you get up, the more they start either dropping weight or just dropping. So blue belt, I'm gonna say my biggest bracket was I think 7, with me included, which I was jazzed. I was like, oh, this is it. This is the elite. It's gonna be an all day kind of thing. It really tracks like 3 matches, but in my mind, I'd never done much before. It's weird to tell teammates of mine who are between that blue to purple 120, I mean not 125, 150 to 180 range, that like they compete, like they'll compete every week. And we had a competition where we had 8 people go down. Like, oh, Torrie, you come and compete. I'm like, oh, you think summer child? There is one for me. It is vacant. There is nothing. And they'll have 10 people sign up every competition. Even with the ADCC Open in Orlando, I think there's no one in my actual division, and there's just like 4 in absolute. I guess I'm doing absolute now. So I think I've gotten, as I've gotten older, and I realize that like competition isn't my main focus. Like I said, you might catch me at 2 to 3 a year. If you catch me at 3, I'm active. I am in these streets. So I tend to wait for ones that I said, typically just do ABJJF because that's where bodies tend to show up. I think that's been general mentality. But if not, I am cheerleader on the side, waiting for other people to float up to the vision. And props to you, Hillary, because once I hit Master 2, I'm never looking back. I am counting down the days till I'm 35 and I can live in these 5-minute matches. This 6+ is for birds. Or what is brown belt? Is brown belt? Is that still 6? For Master 1?
For Master 1.
Yeah, like the thought of adult brown belt, I would never. No, thank you.
See,
Hell
last
no.
week I had that, even though I'm like limping around the pyramid, I was like, maybe I could give this one more try at the adult. Like, do I want to go against Gabby Pizzana? Not really, but it would be interesting. I'd like to feel her compared to Dom.
Yeah. Like,
But
let's give it a whirl.
And Torrie, you brought up something interesting about the absolute division.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to do the absolute, like, and I give the heavier weighted, like the middle heavy and up. I'm always like, you should just do it. You should do it.
Yeah.
I'm actually regretting that decision from the Masters International because I further screwed up my knee, and I went against. I think they're both really featherweights. One of them did lightweight, but there was nobody in her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, oh, they'll probably pull guard on me. And they didn't. And I stood the whole time in both matches, which was, I decided to do because I didn't feel confident in my knee and I hadn't practiced pulling guard against itty bitties. That's what I called them. Anything like lightweight and smaller is an itty bitty.
I call them littles. So
that's what I call
it. Same thing.
But the itty bitty is so, but I feel like this responsibility, like I only had one match in my division. I should do the absolute. Or like it looks like I'm weak if I don't do the absolute, and I'm trying to get myself over that.
Yeah.
But what do you guys feel about that? Like feeling like you have to do the absolute? Do you feel like you have to?
I didn't for Worlds, for Ngi Worlds, because I had put so much pressure on just doing well in my division. And after I did it, like if you ever see the video, like you hear me just scream. And if you know me, I'm not a screaming type of person. I put so much time and energy and just kind of putting to myself that like I still got something. Like if I really dedicate myself, I can do it. And I had nothing left to do at all after that. She was like, "Yeah, we doing it." I was like, "Hell no! I'm trying to go get some pad thai and get drunk. Let's go. I'm good." But I definitely feel that for a while it was assumed that I would do absolute because like, though you won super heavy, why wouldn't you go up against again? I was like, well, first of all, yeah, that one.
No.
That one. When you have, I want to say like when I was in blue belt and I did American Nationals, there was that the biggest division I ever had was the no-gi absolute, and there were 70 people who signed up and literally did not know what I was going to do with myself. Like when I saw that and I'm like counting in my head, I'm looking back at the bracket, it's like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4, and I didn't get a buy. It's like 5. So if I'm gonna win, I gotta do 5. And I just competed. And I got gi next tomorrow. I had never been more stressed out in my life. And after that, I stopped letting myself feel guilted into doing an absolute if I didn't want to do it, especially if I'm doing gi and no gi on the same weekend. Absolutely not.
I feel like we should throw that in the what's difficult about being, the pressure to feel like you have to prove yourself.
For the assumption that the heavier person's going to win.
Yeah.
I would rather go against middle heavy or heavier than a light featherweight. Like
they're brutal.
Still, like they're too little.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Shannon, before I was talking?
Oh no, you're good. I was gonna say I always feel like I want to do it, especially for the bigger tournaments where I'm traveling. I'm like, let me go kind of prove myself, I guess. But like make it worth my time. I think that's kind of the thing. I just keep getting like concussed or sick during my matches. Like haven't in a while. But yeah, I feel like I want to. It's just like, and then if I don't, I feel guilty about it.
I've definitely felt like at no-gi Worlds, I definitely felt a little twinge of guilt after the fact. I was like, I only did 2 matches today. I came all the way to Vegas. I probably could have done it, but at the same time, I was like, but in that moment, I didn't want to. And like, if I would have made myself do it, I felt that's when I do spit stuff and get hurt. And if the way I typically feel is like, if I perform to the best of my ability, win or lose. If I feel like in my division I've performed to the best of my ability and I've had more than one match, I'm good leaving like that. Now, if I go in there and like I'm just like, what was that story? Then I tend to feel like I have to do absolute to like shake the taste because I know I'm not going to compete for a very long time. Then I'll like, okay, well, it's time to absolutely at least feel like I did something right because I kind of fumbled my way into this one. But I echo Hillary. I hate going against the small people because they do not care about their bodies in a way that I
too.
had someone jump like do a flying armbar on me, and I was so taken aback that I just kind of threw them to the ground and just looked for a second, like, what are you doing?
I did that too. Someone tried on me, I pushed them. I went, and they fell back. And I'm just like, don't do that.
It's personally offended type of movie. I was like, why would you? Why?
But I feel like they go into that sometimes with like reckless abandon. Like they're just like, fuck this big girl. I'm going to jump on her. Yeah. And if we did that, we'd be the assholes. Mm-hmm. And I have a little bit of I think part of my lower back issues are from so many girls jumping guard on me over the years. Mm-hmm. And me being like, this is fine. And that happened at this last tournament. And because I'm smaller, she was able to like climb up me and I couldn't do my normal like shake her off. And I was like, this, yeah. It was really hard.
Do any of you feel that whole like I was able to shake it out at the end of the belt, but that whole I have to be nice when rolling thing with people? Because it I didn't realize how much it impacted my training until I remember this very distinctly doing knee on belly. I did knee on belly incorrectly for 2 years because I never put my full weight on somebody. And I think I went to do it in a competition. Someone just pushed me off, like just pushed my leg off. I was like, what was that? And then it was my older coach realized, like, Torrie, you don't really, you plant down? I was like, no, I hovered. Why would you hover? Like, I always hover. He's like, don't do that again. But after that, I'm a big set your intentions for every roll. So I let them know, like, hey, I'm going to go about a solid 90% here. So just so you be aware of what's coming at you. But any of you struggle with that whole playing nice thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially from like a bit smaller than me. I definitely hold back on like pressure and stuff, and then it comes back to bite me in a tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying not to. Might be growing out of it a little bit. Not with the girls because right now we have 2 fairly new. Like they don't need to be destroyed, but like I would even be nicer to some of the smaller guys, and my coach would just be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't. They're just in the." I didn't realize how much of a problem it was until like maybe around my second stripe on my white that it was a detriment to what I was doing. So I had to change. Like y'all have me over here like flashback into like all the issues that I finally got through before they gave me the blue, and I think that's why they finally gave it to me because I finally I let go
of letting it hold you back.
Yeah, 1 being too nice, and 2 feeling like I had too much pressure on myself to try to like prove myself because like I'm a girl and I'm big. No one wants to partner with me. I went through an issue where they would be like partner up, and I'd look around and everybody's already like separated. So before they would ask, I just started grabbing dudes by the collar and pulling them to me like you're partnering with me today. And then I had to get through that, and I'm like, yeah, that was a problem. I had to get brave, and then I had to stop being nice, and then things got better.
Yay for bravery and being.
Well, I think if you can find those, it's typically guys, training partners that let you go hard. That's when I was just training and not teaching. That's what I had to do. But they were like the lightweight guys, and they would be like, put more pressure on me, go harder. So that really helped me. But now being a coach and a black belt, like it's hard for me. We just had one of our good friends, Cody Kellison, which Torrie, do you know him? He's in, and he goes and trains at Pedigo like a bunch. He's in Missouri. He's
part
a
of
black
Pedigo. I
belt.
don't know my race.
Well, he's a black belt. He's a black belt in judo also, but he's like middleweight. And
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He was like, you're rolling with me like you roll with your students, like you're seeing like what I'm giving you. And I was like, oh man, I definitely do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really hard. And like as a coach, like I used to always be the biggest woman on the mat. I'm not always now, but I'm like, put all your pressure on me. Let's like give me more. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying to build those women up. And like I give this speech about like little people don't apologize for being fast, or flexible people don't apologize for being flexible. We shouldn't apologize for being big or strong. One of my coaches is James Foster, and he's 300 plus pounds. And he's a multiple time black belt masters world champion, but he plays guard a lot, but he's always like, don't tell me I'm strong, because that's another backhanded compliment. Like, yeah, that's if somebody's like, wow, you're really strong. I'm like, yeah. And I have I'm also a black belt. Like,
yeah,
I have for a while and I've won a few things. So I think
I've been here
for yourself and finding those partners that'll push you, because they're out there, and then just like relying on them, and then that builds your confidence, and then you find more people. And the other thing you can try to do if you get it, like feeling like, oh, I'm too big or I'm too strong, nobody wants to go with me, start in a bad spot, start in your guard. When I was coming up, my original coach, who's also ultra heavyweight, was great, but he would always be like, you're a big girl, you got judo, start on top. My guard suffered. So I think just my advice to like lower belts is, if you can, like bigger ladies, if we can start on bottom more and really develop those guard games, it's gonna like improve your jiu-jitsu, improve your ability to compete well. And then if you're starting your guard and you're sweeping and then you're smashing and submitting, I beat you with jiu-jitsu. Like, and if you look at the super heavyweight ladies like Gabby and Yara, like they pull guard exclusively. And I'm jealous. Like, I wish I could be a guard puller. I'm still trying to work on it, but that could be something else you could do, is like, well, let's start in my guard. And just some things I've learned over the years. So I always, when I'm working with women, except for like high level black belt ladies, I start in my guard all the time.
I just started doing that.
I'm taking notes.
I just started doing that recently. Is I've gotten to the point where I was like, no, my top game is my top game. I've been doing the same thing since blue belt with additions here and there. It looks prettier. I know more ways to get there and more ways to protect myself, but it's pretty solidified as far as competing. And everyone says like we're bigger, especially when you're like taller, like, oh, I bet your guard's so down. Oh, look at those legs. It's like, actually, it's trash. And you're probably past me. I'm saying, compared to the rest of my game, it's trash. It's trash adjacent. It's not it's the weakest part of my game. So I did for a little bit.
I was just gonna say, it's not your weakest part. It's just where you're working.
Underdeveloped.
No,
yeah, okay, it's what I'm working on. I am working very hard on it right now. So that's one thing that I've started to do, is starting almost exclusively from like, we're still from closed guard. They're like, anything closed guard. Closed guard, take my back. Because I still don't fall into competition where I don't get to guard very often. And I get my back taken. I'm so you get my back taken now. I'm like, oh, they got it.
I would not want to. I don't want to take your back, Torrie.
I get in very weird. I'm getting very weird positions that like I don't know. Like I get stuck. I got stuck in turtle for a while, so I did just turtle for 6 months. Right now, it's like my guard.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, my guard is. I was realizing I wasn't doing anything from guard except for just like pushing people and standing up. I was like, okay, we can't push everyone, Torrie. What's something else that we can do? Pushing is still my number one go-to. Is like, can I just kick them, guys, knock them over? But now I'm trying to be a little more technical with it. what else did I want to say? Great conversation, actually. One last thing I want to ask you about is, how does social media help you within your jiu-jitsu journey?
I was gonna ask y'all that.
Because for me, I don't, between creating the games and just traveling more for competing, I want to say social media has probably kept me into jiu-jitsu longer than I thought I would, just because I'd been able to community build. Because if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't know any of you really, except for Shannon. Like when we competed, like I wouldn't know you, Hillary, and I've known you for a year now. And I was mentioned, like I did an Urkel like years ago, and I was like a white belt, and I mentioned you specifically. And I looked, it's like, yeah, we're friends now on Instagram. I've gone to her gym and whatnot, but it's weird because I feel like it wasn't more like the Facebook groups and Instagram. I don't know how diverse my jujitsu community would be.
You would meet people competing though. I mean, because this is going to age myself, but when I was first competing, didn't have Instagram, I don't think, or like it wasn't what it is now. But I would find the girls and like that I would compete against and then become friends with, which is like I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But for me, I hate social media. I hate it.
Okay.
I hate it because there's a couple things. So Marisha, for example, she has maybe 5,000 or 6,000 followers on Instagram, and she doesn't get super fights because she's not as famous as the girls that show more of their bodies, for example. And that really bothers me. So I take a very like anti that. And I'm like, Ma, just show your ass. Like your ass is great. Like you'll get more, more likes, and it's ridiculous. The impact that social media plays in jiu-jitsu as far as getting seminars. People want to go to the famous person seminar. They may be a terrible instructor, but they're Instagram famous and they've won a couple things, and Flow Grappling promotes them and the IBJJF promotes them, or whoever. So I take a lot of issue with social media, and I think it's very, very fake. There's a lot of extremely fake people like you. They post this stuff and you see them in real life and they're not like that. There's ladies that project this body, and I'm going to get on, this is my little tangent, project like body positivity and inclusivity, but they're not. Yeah.
And like Dee, I think you probably have like the biggest following of all of us right now. You got what, like 13, 14, 15,000?
13. It's 13. I took a different route with my social media. It wasn't even about jiu-jitsu at first. Like just posting made me a more confident person, hence why I can make the reels that I make now. But if I hadn't used it, I wouldn't have found you, and I would have continued to feel alone. Here, there's no one. I'm the only heavyweight female in this gym, even before our gym got small. And I think I'm doing a good thing by challenging my coaches to think more for me, because they're always thinking for the male body type, and now they have me, and they're like, oh man. Well, I mean, most of my adjustments are regular adjustments, but then you got to figure in the hips and the chest and everything, and they weren't really thinking about that before. Like my main coach, Bill, I stumped him where he was looking at something and be like, well, I'll have to think about it. And it's nice, but then I started posting more of the jiu-jitsu stuff, and I'm helping other women now. I'm helping people who didn't want to try, because at first I didn't want to do it either. I'm plugging my laptop in so I don't lose you guys.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to do it for a while because I was like, oh, I'll lose weight first and then do jiu-jitsu, which over time began not to make any sense, because you're going to lose the weight when you do it. So I started posting, people started messaging me. I feel like I'm helping a little bit. I mean, I do get a couple people that's like, jiu-jitsu is not a fashion show. And I'm like, it isn't.
But it is. If it wasn't, then we would have so many different brands that we have now.
Like it is today.
Jiu-jitsu fashion is thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I gotten a little bit from that. but it's just helping find the community. I only started doing all that stuff on social media to build my own confidence, but to help people who were like me in that
Yeah.
situation. So
Um,
that's why I now promote the rash guards that I wear, the gis that I
mhm.
wear. So I get messages probably weekly at this point by women just like, "Where'd you get that?"
Yeah,
Because women will not sign up for something if there's nothing to wear.
absolutely not. Absolutely. That's honestly why when we started doing new stuff for the dames, I had to go back and do just a basic, like plain black,
Mhm.
plain simple ranked ones. Is like, hey, look, I need shorts for IBJJF, and I love these tacos, but I cannot wear these. Make it work.
I
But
will.
I agree. I agree with both of you because I do think that social media can be a very negative, toxic place. I think it's
Mhm.
very important how you curate your feed, your stream. It can get very negative very quickly. And I do think that it's unfortunate that people can lose opportunities and because they don't have the right numbers. I've definitely seen that happen as well, where you don't get as much attention or some warped mind. They equate followings with ability.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you only have 10,000, like you only have 2,000 followers. How are you really black belt level? Like, are you really a high level? How can you be a high level competitor if nobody is following you? It's like, I've been
That's
here.
how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. I think with the thing, especially too, like the newest generations coming up who are, God, I'm starting to feel old, who are so inundated with social media, who
No, it's
like,
okay. These Gen Z kids are a lot. Okay.
listen,
I don't want
but
to
a
hear
lot of
you
them are,
feeling old either, Tori. I think I'm like 10 years older than you. So
I'm turning 34 this month. I'm very excited
okay,
for
I'm
it.
more than 10 years older than you.
But I do think that there's like, with all things, there has to be a balance because at the end of the day, social media isn't life. There has to be some external connection beyond just posts and DMs, which is why I like that's the one thing I will say about Facebook is I like the ability to have a group where there can be a little bit easier exchanging and
Yeah.
it can be you can lock out. You can make a certain group of people are allowed to be here. And if they don't fit this, you can kick them out. So I appreciate that aspect, but I I see what you're saying, Hillary, about like there are yeah, because she's good. Like there are a lot of good
Yeah.
people who just don't get the credit they deserve because they're not social media people.
Well, even like like Dominica
Yeah,
is one of the best female, in my opinion, one of the best female jujitsu players ever. And
mhm.
people will see her like she was at Worlds last week, which is also funny. Like her hair is matching mine now. She lives with me for a couple months, and now she's like dyeing her hair pink, and I'm wearing like Dom pants. It's funny, but some people don't know who she is. 4-time
Mhm,
black belt world champion,
mhm.
first ever European to win the open class. I believe she says that. I believe she's the first European to win any black belt adult
Yeah.
worlds. But people are like, "Oh, you still train?" And she's like, "Yeah." Like
How old
she's
is
teaching.
Dom?
She's 28.
Yeah, she's not that old either. Like, yeah.
No. And she's really focused on her art right now, but
Mhm.
it's insane to me. Like people are like, "Who, Dominica? Who?" You're like,
Yeah, that's literally who I was thinking of when you were start talking about that. It's like, yeah, Dom does not get near recognition that she should get with like, yeah,
but she doesn't care anymore, which is
no.
great. I mean, Ma doesn't care, but Ma like it bothers. I shouldn't speak for her. It bothers me for her that she doesn't get the matches, like the super
Yeah.
fights. Like
Hmm.
it shouldn't. Maybe
Yeah.
it's who sells tickets, or I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it bothers me.
Well, now that no gi jujitsu is a lawless land where people are just creating and doing stuff who knows, she might get some more opportunities. Um, but thank you both for doing this dope. I know Hillary, you have a camp coming up. You want to talk a little bit about that because it's definitely heavyweight friendly.
Damn.
Yes, it's
Yes.
for female black belts. Marisha's the lightest one. Heaviest, she'd be mad at me. But she cuts to make middle heavy, so she's really more like a heavyweight ish. And me and Dom, and then Rhonda Andrews, who's like me, Dom, and Rhonda, we're all super heavy. And we've all been black belts for quite a while. Ma is like the newest one, but she's the most active competitor, and she should be a second degree black belt, but I think she just doesn't have it officially. But it's August 2nd through 4th in Portland, Oregon at Unicorn Jiu-Jitsu. There's links, and I have an Instagram page for the camp, but I don't do enough on it. But we'll link to that.
We'll put the links to everything in there. I went to the camp last year. I highly, highly recommend it. It was one of the most, I'll say the most like easily to follow camps that I've been to in a while. I like the style that they had, and they start in one position and the next person picked up from that position and continued on. And normally when I go to a camp, it's always, I'm going to show this person's going to show this. There's no true connection. And the way my brain works, I could not follow it. There's still things that I'm still using that I really, really like. And I still have like a perma bruise on my shin. It's a tattoo over it now from Rhonda doing her passing with her knuckles into my shin. It just never left, but it's covered by an elephant now, so it's fine. But
Rhonda's just mean. But yeah, and the other thing about my camp is we have the same instructors every year. We added Dom last year for the first time, but I've known Dom for like, we competed. She was one of my first matches at black belt. So since 2016, and I met Rhonda and Ma both at purple belt. But we have the same instructors. They're three of my best friends. So it's not like just pulling out random people that are like the hot thing right now. I know what each of their games are. I know what their teaching strong suits are. So we try to I think it's more collaborative than other camps where they just get big names together. And that's the first time they've met. Yeah.
I told you want to go to this camp, girl. If you can make it, if you can't do it this year, next year I will be there. But if you can't make it, it's worth the trip.
Okay. Well, we've got a few like black belt ladies coming out from Canada for it. There's all levels. Like, I actually think it's heavier on the blue and up than a white belt heavy camp. So I think that's fun. And there's lots of bigger girls. So having Torrie there last year was really fun. And I was like, I don't want to be underneath her.
It was great. And like you said, like when we did the Dames camp, we had a small but mighty, turnout. And the mighty seminars have been doing really good. We've had good turnouts for that too. But it's one of those times where I rarely get emotional about like jujitsu now, because I'm like a cold-hearted. My heart has been broken too many times in this sport to like really, yeah. But whenever I see a collection of women is becoming like we're seeing it more. But whenever I see like a collection of mostly bigger women in one area, I'm like, oh my God, it still kind of blows my mind. Because like we exist. We're here. And you see them all and they're competing, and it's not just it's somebody, but they're kind of sitting to the side, or they don't train them. No, they're all training multiple belts, different variations of what heavy is. It's really great to be a part of. And I don't think your camp's not like specifically heavyweight.
No.
But you have a good turnout of heavy women, which I loved.
I think part of that too is just representation. Like it goes into like my gym. Some people think that it's a women's only gym, and like there's a ton of classes where it's mainly guys. But because I'm the head coach, people are like, "Oh, it's a women's gym," and it's like, you see my husband,
and because it's called Unicorn, they assume that like, oh yeah, that's it.
But we have so many guys, and it's kind of cool. But but I think people seeing us as the leaders of the camp, they're like, oh, I will fit into this camp. But it's really for everybody.
All right, Erin, thank you so much for this. It's been a fantastic conversation. Do any of you have anything up? Well, Shannon, do you have anything coming up? If not, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about all things you?
Yeah, I think the next tournament I'm training for is Master Worlds in Vegas in August. Follow me on Instagram. I'm terrible at keeping up with it. I'll go through spurts of trying to be like really good about it and then kind of fall off. So, but when it's tournament training time, I tend to kind of get it up. But follow me, DM me, new friends.
Oh, all righty. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.